Hey, thank you for watching / listening to another episode of whatever you're listening to. Paranoid American Podcast, Occult Disney, Paranoid Programming, Sound Science. There's a bunch of them, but whatever it is, I appreciate that you're listening / watching to this right now. And if you really want to support Paranoid American, if you didn't know this, in addition to being a podcast, we've actually been publishing comics since 2012, so over a decade. While I was still at Disney, I started this company to publish a little book called Time Samplers, and it's exploded into 60 different titles at this point. And the biggest one just launched, at least at the time of recording this, but it's at nasacomic.com, stands for Never a Straight Answer, and it's about Stanley Kubrick directing the moon landings. And I just want to show you some of the cool kind of exclusive things you can get by backing this thing early. So if you go to nasacomic.com, it'll automatically bring you to this Kickstarter page. And you can see, bam, hit our goal at the time of recording this, 100%. So it's definitely going to be made. So you'll absolutely get a copy of this thing if you back it. If you're listening to this in the future and this page isn't here or brought you somewhere else, then likely you can just buy it right now. So you have to skip all this and just buy the damn thing. But here's a couple little previews of artwork. Here's different variant covers that are for offered. This top left one, I actually have in print. I got a couple of prototypes printed up just to make sure that it would look good. It looks great, looks amazing, full color, gloss pages. It's got a nice hefty weight to it because it's 40 different pages of all unique art that you haven't seen before. There's also going to be a variant cover. There's going to be a hollow foil cover. And then there's a little postcard print that anybody that gets a physical copy of the comic in any form, they're going to end up getting this postcard size print here. Here's some different artwork samples from the 3 different artists that contributed to this book. And then here's the important part, the rewards. So by backing this project, you're going to get to pick some different kind of reward tier. The entry level one is this digital deluxe, which has the entire book in digital form. You'll get a PDF. It's also going to have an additional 8 different pages that aren't in any of the print versions just because they were maybe some were a little too spicy, maybe some were a slightly different art style, but I'm going to give all that in the digital deluxe along with some wallpapers and some MP3s and stuff. If you want the print one that I was just holding up here, then the entry for that one is $15. With that, you're going to get that little postcard print I mentioned. You're going to get a trading card. You're going to get a bookmark, and you'll probably get some other stuff because I always throw in extra freebies. You can ask anyone that's bought anything from Paranoid American. I hook it up with lots of extras. If you want the variant cover, which is only available in this campaign, there's a $19 tier for that. It also comes with an extra sticker. If you want the hollow foil, then that one is $29. These ones are going to be super limited. Like, these won't exist outside of this campaign for the next 30 days. So if you are listening to this in the future, sorry you missed out. You might be able to snag one in an upcoming campaign if there's extras. But if you really want this hollow foil, and you should, you can get it right now for $29. And then we've got a couple other tiers after that. We've got a 55th anniversary special for $55. That has the main cover and the foil cover and a sticker sheet and some other goodies. Here's the best value, basically. There's a $99 Cosmic Conspiracy tier, over 40% off of all the different things that are included. So this one's going to come with the main cover, the variant cover, the hollow foil cover, 3 or 4 different sticker sheets. It's going to come with 6+ stickers. It has the trading card, a bookmark. It has a custom Paranoid American Room 237 keychain. And I think the highlight of this is it's going to come with this custom embroidered Stanley Kubrick patch based on the Apollo 11 design. And if you keep scrolling down, you can see all the other extra reward tiers. All of the different items are going to be described in more detail. And I want to show you this patch right here. It's a 3-inch embroidered iron-on patch. You can put it on your Molex bag. You can put it on, anything, hats, backpacks. This is the first time we've ever done one of these custom patches, so I'm really excited about that. There's also a custom fake moon landing playset that you can select as an add-on when you go to check out. So speaking of, let's say that you're sold, you want to get a copy, you want to help support Paranoid American. If you haven't used Kickstarter before, the easiest thing to do is you just click on this project button on the page. It's both at the very top of the screen and it's at the top of the page. So you can click either one, back this project. And from here, it's going to be like a typical checkout. You're going to select which of these different tiers you want. Again, I highly recommend this $99 Cosmic Conspiracy combo. It's going to have every single thing that the campaign has to offer that's exclusive to this NASA book. You click on that, you pick the country that you're in, and then you just click on the pledge button. There's one extra last step where it's going to ask you if you want to do any add-ons, if you want to throw in like a trading card pack or another keychain or anything else. You can get some huge discounts on the backlog of Paranoid American comics. But let's say you're done with that, you click continue, and then finally, if you don't already have a Kickstarter account, you'll be prompted to make one. You can link it to Facebook. The rest of the flow is just like any typical checkout online. So I really appreciate if you would take a look. Please just back the comic, back nasacomic.com. Anyways, back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Good evening, listeners, brave navigators of the enigmatic and the concealed. Have you ever felt the pull of the unanswered, the allure of the mysteries that shroud our existence? For more than a decade, a unique comic publisher has dared to dive into these mysteries, unafraid of the secrets they might uncover. This audacious entity is Paranoid American. Welcome to the mystifying universe of the Paranoid American podcast.
Launched in the year 2012, Paranoid American has been on a mission to decipher the encrypted secrets of our world. From the unnerving enigma of MK Ultra mind control to the clandestine assemblies of secret societies. From the awe-inspiring frontiers of forbidden technology to the arcane patterns of occult symbols in our very own pop culture. They have committed to unveiling the concealed realities that lie just beneath the surface. Join us as we navigate these intricate landscapes, decoding the hidden scripts of our society and challenging the accepted perceptions of reality.
Folks, I've got a big problem on my hands. There's a company called Paranoid American making all these funny memes and comics. Now, I'm a fair guy. I believe in free speech, as long as it doesn't cross the line. And if these AI-generated memes dare to make fun of me, they're crossing the line.
This is your expedition into the realm of the extraordinary, the secret, the shrouded. Come with us as we sift through the world's grand mysteries, question the standardized narratives, and brave the cryptic labyrinth of the concealed truth. So strap yourselves in, broaden your horizons, and steel yourselves for a voyage into the enigmatic heart of the Paranoid American podcast, where each story, every image, every revelation brings us one step closer to the elusive truth.
Today we got John Lee Chalbeck, and not a lot's been going on lately, man. It's been like a really slow week. Like sometimes you just wish that there was news popping. Before we even get into the lack of news, welcome aboard. We've been talking for a while. I've been on your show. This is long overdue. And just tell people where to find you, plugs up front, and then we'll talk about why they should care about finding you.
Well, everyone, you can find me It's Not What Cha, since my last name's Chalbeck. It's what I think, so It's Not What Cha Think podcast. It's on YouTube. It's on Spotify. And I recently had my Twitter taken away from me, which was the Florida Keys Kid 7. And I'm the Florida Keys Kid on Instagram. Yeah, and that's where you can find me. I'm writing a book right now on this trust fund dork fuckery, and I'm thank you for having me on, Thomas. I've been following you, Juan, and Sam for a long time, and it's an honor.
And you're burying the lead just a little bit, and I just wanted to note that you've got a really interesting background. You've got some pro UFC fights under your belt. You've got some you've got some MMA, professional MMA fights under your belt, and some kind of like others. I just want to hear, like, what's that? Are you fighting right now? What's your style? Like, are you going to fight me?
No,
I don't want any smoke.
No, but I do want to see you in that one dork fight with his 50,000 subscribers. That would be interesting.
If we raise money for charity or something.
An interesting one-sided beating, and then he can fight for all the Bach dorks. But anyways, I've done bare knuckle fighting, which is kind of something that's older. but it's been brought back, which, you know, in the last couple of years has gained a lot of momentum. And in my opinion, that's my favorite style of fighting, because you barely touch the guy and there's so much blood. And so it's actually a lot safer for your brain, but it looks a lot worse superficially. So everyone thinks it's way more dangerous, but no one can actually keep those type of power punches going for so long. So you'll get a lot more cuts, but your brain won't take so much of a power punching impact that you would with glove boxing. That's why 11 boxers die a year, and you never hear about them. They're never on the news, and that's like the normal. And in MMA is even safer, because there's a lot of grappling involved, and when someone does die in MMA, it's usually from the weight cut. So, you know, in my opinion, regular boxing, which is how I started with gloves on, is the most dangerous sport in the world. And then I would say, you know, maybe Muay Thai and kickboxing, and then MMA and bare knuckle.
And you can dispel some myths for me too. So I got into light boxing when I was like just in the military, but I was getting my ass kicked, and it's like actually kind of against regs to just be getting your ass kicked all the time. It's destruction of government property. Not even kidding about that. It's like a real thing. But I remember when I was taking the initial lessons, and they would tell us that the boxing gloves have nothing to do with protecting the person that you're hitting, and it's all about protecting your knuckles and like not breaking your hands. Is that correct?
100% correct. And while you know, sometimes you can hit someone with a bare knuckle and just break their orbital, right? Because you landed a perfect shot, and maybe that wouldn't happen with the gloves on. But generally, with the gloves on, you're going to be able to punch a brick wall over and over and over again. And with gloves off, you're only going to be able to do that one time. And then your power is going to significantly come off of your punches, because you're not even going to try to throw hard punches again because you fucked up your hand. I mean, I broke my thumb off in my last fight in the first round, and no one knew. I just kept fighting, and it still went to the decision. And then afterwards, I dealt with it. I got surgery. I got it reattached, you know. But in the moment, I was like, look, you just got to sell out. You know, don't tell your coach. Don't pay any attention to it, because, you know, it's all about where we pay our attention, right? So if I don't pay any attention to my broken thumb, then is it broke? Because I kept using my left hand the whole time. And if you watch my last fight against that dork from Mississippi, you would see that, you know, I pieced him up with a broken hand, you know. So, you know, it's all mind. It's all mind over matter.
I guess I want to ask you about that in some more detail in a second, but I'm curious, like the main reason you don't want to tell your coach is because it would be like a TKO or what?
Because I don't want him to acknowledge it. If I don't want to acknowledge it, I'm definitely not going to have someone else acknowledge it, right? So, you know, if I don't tell him, then he doesn't need to be like, oh, fight this way, fight that way. He doesn't need to try to change my style. Plus, I kind of taught myself. So whenever I have a coach, it's more like one of my buddies just in my corner, right? So it's, I'm completely self-taught. I never had like an older like coach that brought me up. Like I did the tough man contest. I did like backyard fights until I eventually got to golden gloves. And then, you know, and then I turned pro, you know, after I graduated from college in the University of Michigan, which they had boxing tryouts at the University of Michigan. And I was like, oh, this is sweet. I just want to try out and see what's what. And I beat everyone up, and they made me a coach. So that was pretty cool. That looked good on my resume to coach boxing at the University of Michigan. So I'll always have that, you know, my little go blue, even though I'm the Florida Keys kid.
Let's say that, you know, I'm in a street fight and I break my thumb in the first minute, and that I've still got a couple minutes left to go. What do I do? Like, what's your technique for just putting this broken thumb out of mind?
Well, first of all, if you have a street fight, you know, there's no time, you know, you have no idea how fast it's going to go. And you're in Florida, so I'm sure you and Juan are both packing, you know what I mean? You're just going to pull it out and pump.
Yeah, well, okay, let's say that we were in like, you know, like a controlled environment fight where, you know, and then I break my thumb in the process of that. So we don't got to worry about Juan packing heat, which he does. He's always strapped, FYI.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I would just say that it's one of those things where, you can't really teach it, right? It's either you're willing to die for what you believe in and what you're into, or, you're going to fold at the first time something doesn't go your way. And I've just always been somebody that, is, uh, put myself through the suffering on purpose just to make myself better. It's like if you avoid the suffering, then you'll avoid it forever. If you make suffering your normal, then you'll be throwing 5, 10, 15 punch combinations and you won't be getting tired. But then
So
a normal person will throw 1 or 2 punches. And I like, seriously, some of these guys I train that are bodybuilders, they look very scary, but they throw 3 punches and they're like, I got to sit down. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I could do whatever I wanted to you, and you're so big and I'm so little, but it wouldn't matter. Like, if they didn't have a gun, like, I could literally like take their shoes off.
well, I mean, there's like a whole culture, right? That's just about go to the gym, hit those biceps. Usually it's just like, just get the biceps and then maybe see what you can bench. And then you get the little chicken leg dudes running around. But yeah, a lot of that never translates really into stamina unless you see the dudes that are like actually doing like straight up circuit training where, you see them jumping between every different machine. So let me actually ask you, like if you were to run into one of these dudes that looks scary and jacked, but they throw 3 punches and they need to take a break. Like how do you get that kind of person back on track?
Well, like my friend Nick, who's a weightlifter, like I pretty much just like show them through sparring and through, kind of like a simulated fight, that hey, like, look, this is how easy it would be for, like, look, I'm laughing as you're trying really hard, and I'm playing around, I'm laughing, I'm super relaxed, and you're so worked up, and look how tired you are. I could do this for 4 hours straight. You know what I mean? So, and I try to explain that to them, and then they start lifting less, running more, jumping more rope, hitting the bag more. And, I maybe they don't lift less, but like my friend Nick, he just started boxing more and doing other things more, and it helped him a lot. And he's still big. He's still a bodybuilder and a big weightlifting guy. But as far as I put him up against any other bodybuilder, and he would just wipe the floor. He would wipe the fucking floor with them so easily now that he's been trained up for a couple years.
You mentioned I've seen a bunch of your videos with the speed bag and stuff. I used to have a speed bag in my room and I loved it. It would just annoy everyone else in the house because it makes the whole freaking house, you can hear it nonstop. But I'm wondering if you're setting up, your own gym to train. Like, what are your 3 things that you're bringing? Is like, and a jump rope like takes up a whole one of those things, right? So
yeah,
what would be like the 3 things?
I always tell people that your Trinity so if there's the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost or whatever, your Trinity of conditioning for martial arts is running, hitting the heavy bag, and jumping rope. And if you're not doing those 3 things every single day religiously, like, don't even bother doing the other bullshit. Like, because you're just kidding yourself. Like, those are the 3 things that are, everyone's like, oh, what's a good footwork, Joe? I'm like, well, have you jumped rope? They're like, no. I'm like, then get the jumping rope. Like, you don't even have to think about it. Your footwork's going to get better. Like, if you hit the heavy bag and you work on your technique, your conditioning's going to get better. But people avoid the heavy bag because it's so boring and it's so repetitious. And, they may not feel like they're getting anything from it because nobody's giving them a correction every 5 seconds, like the mitts or something like that. So, in my opinion, there's a lot of Instagram fighters, which, I see them come into the gym, they would train maybe 15 minutes on the mitts and post a couple of videos, like hard day at training. Why I hit the bag for an hour, I jumped rope for an hour, I ran for an hour, and these guys came in for 30 minutes. And then it was there's a whole Instagram, like post that probably took longer than the actual training session. You know what I mean? So, I try to avoid, all of that, like posting that stuff anymore because, honestly, I'm not really into like people knowing what I've got going on anymore. Like, I'm more into like what people know is going on in general. Like, not just like what's going on with me. I could care less if people see any of my jump rope videos anymore, but at least know that what went on yesterday was pro wrestling.
Oh, so you're talking about what you said, the alleged Donald Trump assassination attempt. So give me your thoughts on this.
All right. Well, number one, the first picture that they showed, the snipers shooting the guy from was on a building 14, which is a 7-7. Okay. First thing I noticed right away, you've got 7-7, the first building that they show, right? So, and then the time of the shooting was 18/11/33. So you got a 666, the number of magic, and 33. So everything's falling into place like usual. All the numbers are matching up, and to me, it's just more of this. Here, let me jack your loosh, let me steal your attention while we prop up our antichrist figure or whatever, and get everyone behind this person. I mean, there's no way he's going to lose an election now. I mean, so many people are posting that picture that can't. I mean, you're telling me that they got pictures of the sniper that from TMZ got pictures of the sniper prone, like, but who took that picture? What I mean? It's just,
some of those were apparently came from like TikTok live streams, and so they're still trickling in, right? Because this happened yesterday. Whenever you're listening to this or watching this, right now it's July 14th. So July 13th was the attempt. Well, as John was saying, the alleged attempted assassination.
Look, I'm not saying they didn't poke a hole in his ear, or they'll sacrifice everybody. They'll sacrifice a whole airplane. They'll sacrifice buildings. They'll sacrifice all sorts of people. So I'm not saying that people don't die. Like, they kill people every day, all the time. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the presentation is all been contrived so that people get behind Donald Trump right now. I mean, everyone saw the debate. I mean, even the Democratic people who love Joe Biden were like, oh, we got to go in a different direction. I mean, this is all, but are you kidding me? It's been like that for 4 years. Like, don't just act like you just saw a debate and now you're like, oh, this guy is not fit. He hasn't been fit the whole time. And they've known that. That's why they put that out there, so it can just break everyone.
Well, that was their one chance to dispute all the rumors about Joe, losing his facilities a little bit, because I really did think that, kind of like in the opening scene of Willy Wonka, when he comes out and he looks all frail and he's got a little cane, and then he like tumbles over. I don't know if you how much you remember like the old one.
Oh yeah, I watched that 1,000 times.
So he comes out and it looks like he's withering away, and everyone's afraid that he might just die right there on the spot, and he falls over. But then instead of falling, he goes into a somersault, and then he pops up, and then he's like full of energy. And I always say it's like one of my favorite examples of subverting expectations, because from that moment on, that you can't trust anything that Willy Wonka says or does, because he's such a master of like manipulating your perception. And there was a small chance that Joe Biden was that old, weak, frail Willy Wonka. And then when they put him up on the soundstage, and I meant soundstage, but when they put him up on the soundstage, they hype him up with Provigil or all kinds of drugs they give fighter, jet pilots to stay awake for like 5 days straight. They pump him up with that stuff. And then if he knocks it out of the park, then he subverts expectations. So like, oh, wow, I didn't think he was going to be able to form a sentence. And he came out of here swinging, which is not what happened. The opposite of that kind of happened. And everyone that had been kind of pulling weight for a while was like, oh, this is maybe too much for me to even explain away. Like, even if he was tired or even so. But I do want to push back a little bit on this premise that just because somebody poked a hole in Trump's ear, that now he's like a shoo-in. I mean, my mind just goes right back to that freaking bar graph chart or the line chart, right, of like the tallied votes, and it just like spikes straight up for Joe Biden and goes over. Like it almost became I really think Trump should just make that the logo, like lean all the way into that. But
Yeah.
that one graphic says all that I can say about, I mean, it might not be such a sure thing because who knows how long it takes for them to tally the votes in those highly populated metropolitan areas, and they might sweep all of the votes that come from the rural areas just like right out of the gate. You know what I mean? Just like it happened 4 years ago, where you're not allowed to even question if the results of that election were valid or not. And we agree. The official story is always true here on Paranoid American Podcast. We toe the company line always. But I mean, just because someone poked a hole in his ear, I don't know if that makes him a shoo-in.
Well, that's true, and I think that's done to break us, like to let us know, like, look, like this shit ain't even real. Like we're gonna make you think that this voting thing is actually going on, and then we're just gonna pop right in and show you that we stole the votes, we put in the guy we wanted, and his son is gonna get arrested for something he should do 20 years for. And he's going to get a slap on the wrist. And then he's going to come on TV and say, no one's above the law. And that's all to break you. That's all to just it's nonlinear warfare to just break you and make you not know what's going on. It doesn't make any sense. And, these guys, for as dumb as they are, they're smarter than you think.
So where are you at politically? Are you just apathetic? Are you voting at all for anybody?
I mean, I don't see what the point would be. Like, it'd be a total waste of my time to go up to there and post a vote for some ritual that these trust fund dorks are doing that's just trying to jack our loosh. Like, I literally don't believe that that's legitimate at all. And I think a lot of like they're going out of their way to make it seem so real is just to get people jacked up. Like I really do think that. Like I think that Biden and Trump are on the two birds of the same feather. I think that there's a Chinese flag flying just 20 miles down the street at a company in Northville, and there's a reason for that because I bought a gun thing that people think is a USA made gun thing. It said made in China on it. To me, it's all pro wrestling. All of these people work together at the very top and they control us like little chess pieces and they make it seem like they're fighting with each other while they're just really doing rituals and sacrifices to fallen angels. Really, that's what I truly believe. It's all fallen. It's all making us worship fallen angels while promoting no God and getting us to be as like evolutionary thinking and monkey down as possible. It's very interesting what they've done. Meanwhile, they're getting people to do complete Ishtar worship by cutting their dicks off and turning them into vaginas. And then these kids are sitting in a freaking classroom and they're like, my vagina's unraveling. It's like, yeah, no shit, because that's not what you are. You've been hoodwinked. You were tricked by this Ishtar, Lilith, feminine fallen angel worship, whose main power is to turn men into women and women into men. And this is that feminine version of the devil, which they get you distracted. Like I always say, they get you distracted with the devil, with Satan. Meanwhile, reality is a feminine and a masculine fallen angel pantheon. And almost as equals. Because I would say Lilith and Ishtar and Venus and Aphrodite is worshipped more in all of the movies and cinema than Semyaza and Azazel. If you do the count, Lilith, Ishtar, Venus is way farther up there as far as references go.
Well, there's on a slight tangent on that, like what you're talking about. I agree with you. I think that it's the female deities that get a lot more of the attention, but it's done in such a subtle way, because like the holy blood, holy grail aspect, where the feminine was suppressed by the church because it might have been a direct link back to the lineage. Whether or not you believe that, it does seem like there was very much an orchestrated effort to oust away from the public view, like all of the the goddess worship in particular and the divine feminine worship. And there's all sorts of people with all kinds of opinions, but it seems like the conventional academic version of this is that men suck and they're suppressing women, and it was just misogyny to get this out of the way, and that now there's like a resurgence from maybe 60s or 70s and civil rights era and third wave feminism, and all this is kind of what's ushering back in this goddess worship. But I've also come around to like maybe a more random idea on this, but that it's always been there, but it was reserved for the trust fund dorks that you call them, like the ultimate elites. Like they knew about it, so they've always been worshiping it, and they've always been getting the rest of the world to worship it, but just like unwittingly, like out of ignorance, they'll get it to worship. And now it's starting to become back in vogue where people are acknowledging, oh, this is goddess worship. Oh, we're worshiping Ishtar now. Oh, we're worshiping Astarte.
Right.
So
100%.
So I wonder, like, how many people really think that goddess worship has been suppressed versus it's just been like truly hidden. Another thing too that comes up is people say, why, and I know it's a weasel word, what people, but it comes up a lot, like, why are so many secret societies male-based? Like no women allowed. And I like to maybe speculate, maybe women are just so much better at keeping secrets that we just never find out about their secret societies, which would make way more sense than there are none, right? It would make more sense that somebody's actually able to keep a secret out there.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because you have figures like Maria Abramovich, which obviously, you know, holds some sort of like court for these people, you know what I mean, and getting a lot of attention. And maybe they just reserve these female spots for, you know, a very small group of, you know, people who make the cut, you know what I mean? You know, not all of the females are allowed to be at the Bohemian Grove, obviously, because there's that rule, which, you know, it's men only. But is that true? Like, there might have been a few female there, and they're ones that are held pretty high in regard, you know. But in the end, I just see the worship everywhere, Thomas, because it's so prevalent in all of the media. I was watching a movie the other day. It popped up on Netflix. It was the name of the terrorist group was Adam, and the leader was Lilith. You know what I mean? And it's in everything. Fraser's ex-wife was Lilith, you know, and every time she was in town, he called her a demon, and then the spiritual lady would get headaches. You know, I mean, they do this type of stuff. They've been doing it forever, and it's always been there. We didn't notice it back in the day. But if you go back and you watch that stuff, you'll see this Azazel, this Ishtar worship and everything. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger is a good example. He went from being the Conan the Destroyer to the first man to give birth on screen, literally give birth in that movie Junior, which in 1994 was just a big joke. No one even took it seriously. That was the silliest shit ever. But it set the stage. It planted the seeds.
The movie wouldn't have existed if it weren't for making it a joke. Like, that was the whole premise of the movie, was like, how silly is this, that like this clearly a man thinks that he's becoming a woman and is going to become pregnant and everything. Yeah, it's a you know. Yeah, but if you actually saw that in the theater, like I saw that movie growing up.
I saw it when it came out, but I don't think I went to the theater for it.
I mean, I was a little kid, but it was like, you know, a silly movie. And I think it came either out on the heels of Twins with Danny DeVito, or it might have came right before them, but it was like a package deal almost.
Yeah, and it's the media, the movies and the cinema have been doing this forever. Jack Lemmon, Clark Gable. I mean, and they built it up, and if you won't find a leading, like what Cat Williams say, you won't find a leading man actor that wore a dress unsuccessfully.
I mean, I don't know all of Jack Lemmon's body of work. When did Jack Lemmon wear a dress? Not that surprised me at all.
Oh, God, I can't. I'd have to look.
I really just know him from the Grumpy Old Men series with him and Walter Matthau, but I know that he was a staple in the comedy scene, and a lot of people cited him as like their mentors way back in the day. So that, I mean, do you think that's humiliation ritual? Or?
Yes, I absolutely do. I think that's like they all have to sign up for that type of thing if you want to become famous. Like no one's going to be able to get past that. I mean, look at the Tupac video that come out. You're telling me that was a gangster, but he was talking like that at 18? Please give me a break. That was such a joke. Like I saw that. That was so eye-opening for me because I had never seen that before. And even my friend who's a staunch Tupac uh follower, lover, fan was like, yeah, I seen that before. Yeah, he was an actor back in the day. I'm like, actor? Bro, he likes guys.
Well, he started as like a true thespian, like of the theater, because it wasn't just like he was an actor. He was in Juice. He was in a number of movies, and he was in that movie with, I think, Janet Jackson, Poetic Love, or I can't remember.
Poetic Justice, yeah.
And Poetic Justice showed like he had some regular acting chops, and that was around the same time that it got leaked of like his audition video or him like in high school or something.
Right. That was eye-opening to me because to me that was the most legit Tupac we've ever seen. That was the only real Tupac we've ever seen, was that high school video. Everything else has been contrived. Everything else has been the exoteric presentation. And all I've been saying the last couple of days is like the exoteric presentation. No one even knows what that word means, and they think I'm crazy. But it's just like it's all pro wrestling to me. They've been saying fake news forever, but now they're believing everything CNN is saying, and all the numbers are there, man. It's just another attention-seeking ritual by the elite to get people jacked up, to get everyone, rallying around Trump, so that they can try to implement some sort of, new world order policy, to get everyone more controlled, to get everyone less freedom, and to get you away from God. In my opinion, it's all that. Everything that they do is that.
So when we talk about God, is there a certain denomination that's like the right one? Like, do you follow any specific religion?
No, I mean, I would say that I like to try to live as Christ-like as possible. Treat people how you want to be treated. Do unto others as that you'd want done to yourself, and pretty much love is God for me. So you can replace the word love and God interchangeably. And, to me, that's what the Lord is. It's love, it's forgiveness, it's understanding. It's, I believe, I would say I'm a Christian reincarnationist, I guess you would say, because I believe what the elite believe, which is they believe they're going to come back, in this family, in this realm, in some sort of reincarnation. And I believe until you find Christ or love or the Lord in your life, you're going to keep coming back here. And this is hell. Like this is hell. And you're going to keep coming back here until you ascend to the next level, whatever that is. I don't know. But I definitely don't believe hell is a lake of burning fire that your dad's going to send you to because you kissed a guy, or anything like that. Like, I definitely don't believe that. I believe that the elite have fucked with the King James version. They fucked with every version, and they took out the Book of Enoch for a lot of reasons. And I think that, they do everything that they can to get you away from looking into fallen angels. That's my opinion. It's, to me, everything is this fallen angel worship, which comes down to the Greeks gods, the Roman gods, the Egyptian gods, the South American reptile gods. They all have giants. They all have the flood. They all have pyramids. It's all the same. It's all the same story, just told from a different part of the world. And once you start looking at it from that lens, you start seeing the playbook. Like in the book, The Secret Teaching of All Ages, he references Caliph al-Mamun, which was the Shah of Iran, who wanted to, break into the Great Pyramid and brought an entire army of people to break into it. And, once they didn't find any treasure and once they couldn't get in, there was talks of a revolution. And what did he do? He sent for his own treasure to be buried on the other side of the pyramid so that when the guys found it, when they get to the other side, they're like, oh, Khalif, you're so brilliant. We found the treasure. And to me, this is the elite's playbook over and over and over again, man. It's just all a big fucking lie to control your mind, to control your soul, and to control your body.
Well, let me ask you on that same note, if like the elite, let's just make some assumptions. Let's say that if we're talking about some elite trust fund dork family, that like a legacy, right? Old money legacy, in that it goes back, I don't know, say like 18th century or something. So 1700s, they, polished the right dude's shoe and just kind of like kept their status in society for a couple centuries. So assume that they've amassed wealth. They could have potentially amassed knowledge. They've had access to books and popes and libraries and all kinds of stuff, right? So if you were one of these super ultra rich elites that's got access to information resources that other people don't, why would you even be going for materialistic and setting yourself up like here in hell? Like, why wouldn't you just denounce everything and just go all in on God or love or whatever, so that you can get to heaven? With the assumption being that if you're so rich and you've got access to so much knowledge, they can't all be so blind and so stupid that they're just like, heaven, screw that. Like, what is it that like the poor rubes believe in heaven, but for some reason it seems like the elites and the rich, like they all believe in hell? Like, where's the disconnect there?
Great question. What I believe is that they made these early on in the beginning, these families, these ancient trust fund dorks, made deals with these fallen angel, these entities, to be able to be in charge of this realm and to keep this power. And then they were taught the ways of being able to the Babylonian money magic and the control systems and sorcery and all these other things. And so they made these deals with these fallen angels. But like Savali, who is the billionaire's daughter, tells you, these billionaires and these rich kids go through indoctrination themselves. She was locked in a room for 5 days with no water and no food by her own parents. She's a billionaire's daughter. And now she's on death's doorstep and she's wondering why this is happening to her. And then the butler comes in on the 5th day and saves her. And this is how they create these psychopaths, And then a couple years later, she goes to a ritual. And she's over on the right-hand side, and there's 5 kids, and the priest does some little scepter, blah, 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 trust fund dork prayer, and then takes the scepter and splits the kid's head in the middle and kills him with the scepter. And then the other kids are shocked, and he's like, it's all part of it. It's okay. And so this is how they create these psychopaths very, very early. They do this to their children. And it's all part of this indoctrination. So we're going through indoctrination of being retarded, and they're going through indoctrination of being psychopaths. And it's this constant cycle of trust fund dork fuckery, which is reality, right? And like Savali, she escaped. She left her family. She left being a private school instructor. She was raised to become a private school trust fund dork professor at one of their high schools, where only the trust fund dork kids go. And what are they taught there? They're taught alchemy. They're taught sorcery. They're taught magic. They're taught Ishtar. They're taught Ishtar and fallen angel worship and all these things that we're not taught in school. We get the science, which comes from the word seance. I mean, it just goes on and on.
It's not like you're describing Hogwarts.
It pretty much is. And I think when they put movies out like that, they're doing their revelation of the method because, they have to. It's all part of their belief that if they don't, when they come back in the next life, it's not going to be good. So it's interesting to me, the quota that they have to hit. Like I saw, what's that movie with the Minions 4, right?
Despicable Me.
I just watched Despicable Me 4 with all my kids, right? And we went. And so, I'm sitting back. I'm just going to watch for all my numbers. And what was it? There's the 666. There's the 33. There's the 77. It was all right there. They had the black and white checkered floor like usual. They had the homunculus. They had all their quota, man. And I'm really wondering, what is their quota? Like what, like how stressed are they if they don't get one in today? Like I am just like, it really does blow my mind to think about like if I don't get my 77 in today in CNN, am I going to get fucked up?
I mean, probably, yeah, man, because the reality that we live in, like the actual reality we live in, is the infinite growth reality, which I think is part of the weird like the weird mind programming that we're in, because it doesn't make sense. Like nothing can grow for infinity unless you are space and you believe in, expansion to space. But like nothing can just constantly always be getting bigger and better day in, day out. But that's how businesses work. And because that's how businesses work, that's how everything else works in this culture. So I would say that, yeah, if you have a quota, if you're a cop, right, you always got to be pulling over like 10% more people every quarter. And if your thing is Gematria and sneaking in, sevens into the media, then I would assume it's the exact same thing. Like it's like, hey, John, you did great last month. You had like 300 sevens. You snuck into all this, but you're only at like 290 now. Like, are you at least gonna to like beat what you did last month? And I feel like that's so pervasive that it would have to exist in every facet.
Yeah, I really do believe it has to be something like that, because I mean these guys don't miss a beat. Like they hardly miss a beat, and to me it's so obvious. And like when space.com pops up on my phone for Google, my Google search is so messed up. Like nothing for Trump even popped up on Google for me. It was all space stuff and like all this other like science stuff. And it was just like, wait, where's the Trump story? It didn't even pop up my Google front page,
Dude,
from
no
my
kidding.
phone.
The only one that I saw for the longest time was Trump exit stage after loud noises heard. And it was just like, what is it? And I didn't even pay attention. Then I started seeing all the memes and I was like, why is there a meme about loud noises? And then I finally, like after 10 minutes, I was like, oh, that's blood.
Like I looked at a space.com one the other day and I was like, where's it going to be? 77 or 33 or 93? Those are usually the ones in space. And it was 33,000. It was right there, 33,000. I mean, these guys, I'm not a psychic, Thomas. I'm not a psychic, and I can't be right about finding an occultic number almost every single time, because the playbook is so obvious. Like it's just the playbook is so obvious. And if you just take the time to investigate with the mind of an enlightened person, knowing that the exoteric presentation is not what it is, you'll find these things so easy. Just like I found 77 77s in all of our, I think I'm going to stop my comic book right there. 77 pages of 77s if I can ever get around to it.
I gotta play devil's advocate on this one point, not even from my own perspective, but from one of trying to claw my way at reality, just so it doesn't completely evaporate in front of both of us. But that we do live in a society and a world at this point that operates on a base 10 number system. So you've only got 0 through 9 are the only numbers that we have to pick from, versus you could have base 12 and base 16, and you've got like all sorts of other systems. But the one that we've got is the base 10 because of our 10 fingers and 10 toes, essentially. So at that point, you're always going to see a number that's going to be related to some other number. Like if there's only 9 options, and most of the time people don't care about 0. They're not like, oh, wow, the 0 came up. 0 is nulled when you're doing Gematria. Like that, you just skip over zeros usually. So now we're talking about like a base 9 system. So now it's like you will always have a 1 in 9 chance. If something comes up, it's going to be a 3 or a 7 or a 9. And then if it's not one of those and it's in a 2-digit number, you can always add those together. So there is in like the Jim Carrey movie, 20, what was it, 23? Number 23. There is, I really do believe in that aspect that right now, if I looked around my room, I could find like 133s and I could find 107s and 193s. Just depending on what I'm looking at, what I'm adding on all, all the little like dials and numbers and labels and stuff all over the place. So some of it is like, are you training yourself to look at those numbers? And if so, and if I were to put some kind of theory behind this, maybe if there is a real effort of like, let's flood these people with 7s and 33s and 93s or whatever, if that really is happening at any level and it's not just like perception, maybe it's because you want to get trained to like ignore it. So if I just flood you with 33s all day, it's the same thing as, I don't know if like when people get really bad tinnitus, or if you start losing your hearing and you've got a certain frequency, they'll play that frequency for you for months. I had a friend that a gun went off by his ear, and in order to get out of that tinnitus, he had to listen to a frequency in these headphones. And at a certain point, your brain just blocks out that frequency altogether. It starts filtering it out so you don't hear that high-pitched ring. And it's just like a function of our brain that when something keeps coming up and distracting you, at a certain point, it'll be like, okay, we're just not going to pay attention to that thing anymore. So that could be like part of these numbers being injected. If I always show you 33 nonstop, then at a certain point, your brain will be like, I can't care about it because there's too many other things going on. So now whenever I see a 33, just ignore it. And if that were part of the playbook, it would be kind of ingenious. I don't know any other reason. Like, what would be the actual reason that Trust Fund Dorks want you to see the number 7 over and over again? Does it give them power just that you saw it, or like, what does it do?
I don't think they want you to see it because so many people don't see the obvious, and these things aren't really obvious unless you're like a detective, right? And then things start lining up, and that's how detectives solve crimes, is that they go over evidence, they study the case, and then things start lining up in a weird way. And then all of a sudden things start lining up in a very obvious way. And then that's when they pull the trigger on grabbing their person. And that's what this was like for me. At first, it was just like, okay, this is really weird. And then it was overwhelmingly obvious when you went and you traced back the most famous events that stole our attention, right? All of the attention jacking events that would have been front page news, that would have been, on CNN, that would have been getting people's attention, whether it was pre-social media news or after social media. I mean, it's so obvious what's going on with these numbers. For example, the 77th Congress built the Pentagon 77 feet tall, right? So right now we've got the 77th Congress, and then they're going to build the 77 feet tall, and they're going to build it on the 77th longitude. And then they're going to build it with 77 5,500 windows. And then exactly 60 years later, to the day that they had the groundbreaking ceremony, which was September 11th, 1941, now September 11th, 2001, they're going to tell you that Flight 77 hit all those other 77s, and it was in the air for 77 minutes. And then they're going to tell you that American Airlines Flight 11 hit World Trade Center number 1, floor 77, right? So right there, we are talking, there is no fucking way. There is no way that could happen. Honestly, I don't believe there is no way that could happen. And then you look at Oklahoma City, not to mention the Venus 77, which was the E-4B Advanced Air Command Post that took off at exactly 7 minutes after the first attack from Andrews Air Force Base. They have to tell you this in the news. The call sign for that plane was Venus, the 7-sided star, Venus 77. Case closed. Case closed, Thomas. Like I'm not seeing shit. It's there. Right. Then you go to Oklahoma City and you've got Timothy McVeigh escaped in a 1977 Ford Mercury. He was arrested exactly 77 minutes after the bombing, which happened right next to Route 77. The building opened in 1977. The ATF and the FBI said that they used aluminum powder, which increased, by their words, the explosive by 77%. They identified in the 77-page report 77 victims by DNA. It's right there. You just got to add up the dental and then add up the DNA, and it adds up to 77, right? And then homeboy, Terry Nichols, was arrested with a cache of 77 guns. And you had to go to the court document to find the actual number because the news had it all fucked up. And then you go to Waco, 77 Branch Davidians was the final number. That was reduced to 77 acres. And then that's right next to Route 77. Those are like the three main terrorist attacks on the United States since Pearl Harbor. And that was like over 20 77s in main stats of all of those events that would literally be impossible to, have it be a coincidence, because many of them are they're built into it on purpose. And then you're telling me something happened by chance, right? So, I mean, I just don't believe anything they say, man. And the one that scares me the most, because I'm a dad and I have 4 kids, is Uvalde, which they had Matthew McConaughey come out and do this big old fucking speech on the news like a fucking actor that he is. And the cops held parents back for 77 minutes. And then they released a 77-page report. And I didn't even find that. I was just telling people about 77. Somebody else sent that to me. They're like, look what I found. I'm like, I'm not surprised. Add it to the list, right?
Well,
so,
and also to that list is the London 7/7 bombings, which was their version of like the 9/11 false flag theory.
And the Norwegian one, which the guy went on the island and killed 77 people on that island, which, was that Breivik guy was his name. It was 2016. I mean, then there's like, you had the Atlanta church shooting, which he made 77 shots. Right. And then the Fort Hood shooter, there is no reason they would ever tell you the stat. The gunman had 177 bullets left on him. There's no reason they would ever tell you that stat ever. It's the most irrelevant stat ever. They literally just were like, oh, where are we going to put it? Let's put it here.
Do you have your kids pointing out sevens to you now? Like, are you watching like movies and TV and they're like, hey, Dad, look, here's another 77?
Well, the crazy one was Roadhouse, right? The new Roadhouse, which I stood right in here. I just found 10 more. And I was like, I looked up at the ceiling, Thomas. I go, God, if you're up there, whoever's listening, I'm not doing any more 77s tonight. I'm done with the 77s. I'm not looking at any more 77s. I'm going to go out and watch Roadhouse with my family because it's supposedly the setting is the Florida Keys. And I want to see Conor McGregor's big debut, how crazy he's going to be, right? So what's the only mile marker Jake Gyllenhaal walks by? I had to stop it. I look at my wife and she goes, what the fuck is going on? It's 77. You think that's an accident? That the most popular movie debut that they're going to put out on Amazon Prime, the only mile marker is a 77. At the beginning of Natural Born Killers, they got 77. What's that one show that's like, it used to be called 77 something Avenue, I think, on the television at the beginning of Natural Born Killers. It's on
the fictional one.
The movie Natural Born Killers with Woody Harrelson. At the beginning of the movie on the television, they have 77 Sunset Strip on the television, right? And then in movies like Eyes Wide Shut, she'll be like dinner 7, and he'll be like 7. I don't know.
So they say it twice, and that's where you get the 77.
Yeah, and exactly. And this Semyaza, this Azazel, this Ishtar, this 33, this 77 is in all these movies, in all of these shows, like the movie with Denzel Washington, Fallen. The demon in that movie is actually Azazel, right? Which is the second in command of the male pantheon of the fallen angels from the book of Enoch, right? So it's very interesting to me how they're worshiping these motherfuckers in every show, in every movie, even still on Netflix with the new stuff. Like I said, I think it was called Paradise or something was the movie. The terrorist group was Adam and the leader was Lilith. Boom, right there. They're going biblical right away. I mean, they got to. They can't help themselves. And there was 77 in that movie too. It's always there. And to me, it's not the gematria part of it. It's a direct 7/7. Like this isn't gematria. I mean, it's a big It's a big sign. It's a big fucking bat sign. It's like,
Yeah, I guess numerology might be a better word than Gematria in this case, because we're not converting between letters and numbers and adding stuff together.
No, but to your point, on the back of JFK's license plate when he was killed was a GG, which is 77. Also, Kobe Bryant's daughter, GG 77. And those are two huge events that stole our attention. JFK was right next to Route 77 in Dallas, and Oswald shot from a building with supposedly 7 stories with 7 windows on that one side or something. I don't know, but it's always there, man. And to me, it's not like I'm trained to look for it. It just jumps out at me now because it's so obvious, because they have to put it in there. Like the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Somebody asked me, "Hey, John, what's going on with this bridge? I know that you don't think it's whatever the news said." I go, "Yep, it's whatever the news told you. It's a lie. And I guarantee you there's a 77 there somewhere." And it took me 0.5 seconds to see that they introduced the story with built in 1977, open 1977. I was like, boom, right there. This is in real time. I'm making predictions in real time coming true, because the playbook is so obvious. It's not that I'm a psychic. It's that I've studied this very hardcore, and I have found all of these. I mean, World War II, Pearl Harbor, 1177 sailors die on the Arizona. And then Public Act 77 starts World War II. And then Boxcar drops Fat Boy on Nagasaki. What's the number painted on Boxcar? 77. So they start World War II with 77. They end it with 77. Let's do Desert Storm. House Joint Resolution 77. Iraqi freedom. It passed with a 77-23 vote. Vietnam. The 7th governor of Alaska was 77. He was the only guy that voted no for the Gulf of Tonkin. So, Thomas, my point, I've rest my case. The defense rests. I could go on, and I've got it all in my memory banks. I could recite it in real time. You can look it up if people are listening. If they want to look everything up that I'm saying in real time, you'll find it. It's right there, because they're not going to hide it, because it's part of their worship. It's part of their requirements. And I believe it's the main requirements. It's part of the main revelation of the method, is to insert these numbers in everything, not to mention all of their predictive programming and other things that they do with the revelation method. If you study, James Shelby Downard, and the people that have really studied revelation method, this is a very, very deep, alchemical thing that these guys do, this revelation method, to get people to believe this shit. Like it's very alchemical. And that's why the elite are obsessed with alchemy and the homunculus. And that's why I find Juan's stuff so interesting, because he's tapped into something that a lot of people don't realize is a big part of the elite's maneuvering.
What was the first time you remember caring about the number 77?
When I heard the podcast with S.K. Bain on Tinfoil Hat, and he kind of just went over, it's the name of his book is 9/11 is Mass Ritual. And he started me off on the list of 77s that had to do with the Pentagon, right? And so I read that book, and then I just was like, well, this is obvious. So I started going into other things and just finding them on my own. And, there was another guy that was on Sullivan, the Freemason, who was on Juan and Tinfoil Hat. He added a couple, but he didn't really add any that I didn't know about. And then I've just really studied and looked through all of this stuff, and you'll realize that there's not a huge event that doesn't have some sort of like 77 as part of its like main statistics. Like, even the ones with all the wars, Public Act 77, House Joint Resolution 77. And then they mixed it up a little bit. They're like, let's not call it Public Act 77 or House Joint Resolution. Let's do it 7723 vote, and we'll call it Iraqi freedom. Right? They called it something different, but they still put the 77 in there. Gulf of Tonkin, he was 77 years old. John Glenn went back to space, 77. The Titanic sub bullshit, one of the guys was 77. I mean, it's always there. If it's on the news and it's big and they're stealing your attention for a couple days, it's going to be there, like guaranteed. And that's why I wasn't surprised when I saw the Trump picture, they had a 14. Now, that would be 7-7 and kind of a gematria way, but they still do this in a lot of their stuff. For example, the Pulse nightclub shooting was 49 victims. That's 7 sevens. Columbine was 49 minutes. That's 7 sevens. So they will insert it in a different way, but I think they really love to just put it out there. But I think they get scared because it's so obvious, and you'll have someone, the deciphers like you and me, the deciphers, the people who can kind of decipher reality a little bit through the symbolism, we can see it, but that's why they either got rid of us back in the day, or now they just flooded so much information, nobody knows what's real and nobody cares.
The numbers 14 and 49 are perfect examples of what I was mentioning before about like getting into the number 23 pocket, where now you're seeing it everywhere. Because if
I try to avoid that, I try to avoid that at all costs.
Those are probably the two best examples, because 7 plus 7 is 14. But if someone were if you did like an unscientific version of this, and I mean unscientific in the way where like you start with the answer and then you work your way backwards, which is supposed to be like the unscientific way, then like if you had the number 5, you could also be like, oh well, 1 plus 4 is 5, or you could be like 4 minus 1 is 3. Like you can make any other number in some cases. But those, like, let's just say that every of these mass events, they're all going to have some kind of a 77 somewhere in them. Like you'll be able to find it at some point. So if that's already the premise and the conclusion you've come to, what's even the point of digging in and finding the 7-7? Is it just as like a little like, I knew it, is it just like to make yourself feel good, or are you like building a case, or like if you find the like 77s in one event, do you get like a free Tootsie Roll? Like how, like what's the ultimate goal here of indexing all these numbers?
Well, I think, Thomas, for me, it's just, I have a very, very good memory when it comes to stuff like this. And so it's not even that I have to write it down. Like a lot of stuff I don't, I see it one time and I'm like, I can go right back to where that number, I find that number, you know what I mean? And yeah, I want to know the truth. I think the love and truth have a lot to do with each other. And, I'm a student of the game. I'm always here to learn. And I know that what these dorks are presenting is not the truth. And it's not that it's not like I'm like have my nose in every single story. I enjoy life. I'm mostly jumping rope, running, hitting the bag, enjoying my kids and my wife, enjoying my new house and all the exciting things I'm doing to my new truck, So I'm mostly just enjoying my life and not paying attention to what the trust fund dorks are putting out, but it is always interesting to know that I think I've got it pretty pinned down. In my opinion, you couldn't convince me, Juan couldn't convince me, Sam couldn't convince me that I'm wrong. Like I honestly, like nobody could convince me that I don't have this kind of figured out. And I believe that, everything, all these countries, there's a room where they all work together at the very top, whether it's 13 families, 33 families, 3 families, 5 families, 77 families, 30, who the fuck knows? But all I know is that Joe Biden doesn't run shit. Trump's not running shit. And everything that they present to you is a ritual And if everything's scientific, like they want us to believe, like NASA says, then explain to me what's going on when they're wearing cloaks and they're burning effigies, at these places where they have these huge
Oh, they're just
statues
blowing
of.
off steam. Come on.
I
Can't
know
they
it's
blow off
just
steam?
it's just some Boy Scout stuff, but when they start explaining to me what's going on there, really, then I'll start believing them again. But until then, I'm done being indoctrinated fully, completely. And martial arts is my religion. Love martial arts is my religion. And I try to live as Christ-like as possible, whether he's just an idea or a real person, really doesn't matter to me. It honestly doesn't, because I'm still going to try to attain that type of level of humanity, right? I'm still, and I believe that we all have this ability to have these superpowers. Like he said, you'll be able to achieve all these things that I did and more. And that's why you have these monks sitting in boiling oil and not getting burned, right? Because there is something to this superhuman powers that these dorks are telling you in these Avenger movies and all these other movies, that we are capable of very, very special things. I truly do believe that. And life is very spiritual. And this is coming from someone who is very agnostic, very atheistic. My grandpa was the lead test pilot for the Navy. We had astronauts over to the house in the Florida Keys. I worshiped these guys. They were my heroes. I wanted to be an astronaut. And now I know that they're all just trust fund dork fucking liars. And they're all in on it. All of them. They're all in on it.
I do want to make a connection between some of the stuff you were talking about. So like Bohemian Grove and the trust fund dorks and like the goddess worship and all this. I do think that they're heavily connected in that let's say that the as above so below mentality, like that very Crowleyan, or even that's almost like an emerald tablet concept, I believe, like as above so below. It's like basically hermetic thought, and that is kind of like a abstract version of the fractal nature of our reality. Like you're born a fetus, you're born as a tiny human, and you grow into a big human, and then you as a big human make another little tiny human, and so on and so on. It just goes on forever. It's like a fractal thing. It's very much like a biological version of as above, so below. So if you take that as granted, even if you don't believe in the as above, so below in like metaphysics, in the physical realm, like fractal nature exists. Like that seems like provable. So in the Bohemian Grove ritual in particular, the cremation of care, if you believe in that as above, so below, they're basically reenacting what they want to happen on a global scale. And there's a comic I've been working on with my friend David Charles Plate, but it basically presents from the context of the Golden Bough. And this guy named Fraser, he basically kind of wrote this, like he was doing pattern matching, kind of like what you're doing, but his matching was reading all the different rituals of all these secret societies across the world and all mythology and like the cults in particular in these different like mythic cults, and that there was a matriarchal society and there was a patriarchal, and the patriarchal is what we got now. Patriarchal is nepotism. It basically is like, if your dad gets rich and he's a baller, then he passes the company to you. And if you don't screw it up, then you can pass it on to your kid, and so on and so on and so on. This is like, I'm in the family business. That's patriarchy, where it just passes from the dad down to the son, so on. This also is where you have like huge declines, because granted, you're going to at some point have somebody running a business that has to give it to their kid, and their kid's like a Hunter Biden. You know what I mean? It's like it's maybe not the best person to pass it on to, but that's part of the lineage, and that's part of the patriarchy. And then the matriarchy would be that it only passes through the woman. So this is like all the old fairy tales, like Robin Hood is my favorite example, where Robin Hood has to dress up and sneak into an archery contest, and he has to prove himself with merit. Kind of like if you had to go and box your way and like fight for the hand of the queen or the princess. So that's matriarchy. Even though it doesn't sound like it, you having to fight for the hand of the princess in order to inherit the kingdom means you got to show that you've got merit. And it also means that it's coming from outside the family. So it eliminates the whole like inbreeding aspect. and it also completely eliminates nepotism, because you can't, nepotize your way into winning merit-based competitions. So Bohemian Grove, to tie that in, like the cremation of care is the premise of like an outside challenger comes in. This is John Lee Chalbeck that comes into the Bohemian Grove, and he's like, I'll beat up any one of you trust fund dorks, and whoever I beat up,
That's so
I get to
100%
inherit,
true.
right?
Just so you know, all of you trust fund dorks, I would piece the fuck up like so easily.
But that's the whole. This is the whole point of Bohemian Grove, though, is that there's a challenger that comes from the outside, and this is supposed to be care, and they don't want care. Like they want to cremate care, because care is the opposite of what they're there for. Like there's two definitions here. One is the literal word care. So when they burn care and the cremation of care, it's like all their cares and worries of the world. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. They all feel like that because they're these leaders of industry. So they go there to burn away their cares, like in a Burning Man literal way. But also care is the character in this Grove play. And by killing care, then they are reinstituting nepotism. They're reinstituting the patriarchy. And they're basically saying, like, that's why it's a men's only club. That's why it's an invite only. You got to be like legacied in. It very much is them working in the mundane world, right? The exoteric world, and trying to apply the as above, so below. So that if we kill care and we only let in our kids and it's only men, then ideally that's how the rest of the country will work. That's how the rest of business will work, because we're putting this like magical spell into motion.
Reminds me of what Nixon said when he's like, I'm not into that gay shit. That's what he said about Bohemian Grove. So yeah, that's pretty much my response to that whole thing is, these guys are still doing rituals. They're still doing things that, are suspect. It's very, very shady, very shady business, and, I don't give any of these guys any leniency anymore. If me and Bill Gates were on a desert island and there was one banana, I'm going to eat that banana real fucking slow. I'm going to look him in the eye and I'm going to be like, you want this banana? He's going to be like, yeah. I'm like, too bad. I'm going to eat it right in front of him. And without no Navy SEAL assassins, without any like guys like that, he's not going to be able to do a fucking thing. You know what I mean? So it's just that simple, because martial arts really is what the 1% is all about. Right? Because when you do martial arts and you try to achieve mind, body, and soul, that's the real shit. That's the real skills. And that's when you'll achieve real superpowers. And it has nothing to do with any type of rituals, revelation of the methods, seances. They can do a bunch of sacrifices. It won't matter, because they don't jump rope, they don't hit the bag, and they don't run. And just because they were psychopath created as little kids and they're rich doesn't mean that they actually have skills. That's why they hijack everyone's creativity, and that's why they kill inventors all the time and steal their shit.
Do you think that there's any value in using 7/7 for your own purposes? Like, let's say you're in a fight. At any point, are you thinking like, I'm going to do 7 body shots and then 7 head shots, and then if I do that, it's like, the ultra Buddha palm, where if you like hit him in the right spot and you go bam, that last one, it like knocks him out? Do you wait for like 77 seconds into the fight to hit like your biggest punch? Like, would you do any of that, or would that be like channeling evil, or would it be silly, or what?
I actually thought about, because I have my car all blacked out, but my license plate is kind of white. I was like, I got to get a black license plate too. I thought about changing the number to like 113377. Like, honestly, like I thought about doing that just so that like anybody that's some fucking trust fund dork gets behind me and they already see my cool ass car, they're going to get up. They're like, this guy knows what's going on. He knows what's going on. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I definitely don't believe that just putting numbers on me is going to be, I believe that these evil entities can't touch me, because I'm grounded with the Lord, right? And I'm grounded with the love of treating each other how I want to be treated, and how I would die for my children, And there's no entity, there's no demon, there's no devil, there's no trust fund dork that could take any of that away from me. And I mean, I'm willing to let the light go out right now for them. And for me, that's reality. I would do anything for them, and that's my life, is trying to be a better person, trying to be a good dad, trying to be a good husband, trying to teach people how to fight and use martial arts to better their lives, and to not fall for all this attention stuff to get you away from doing that. Because in the end, if you're jumping rope, hitting the bag, running, and doing all these things that's going to make you better, you're definitely not paying attention to the 77s and the 33s. And like, I do that because I'm an investigator and I'm a detective, like, and I want to, because I want to know the truth. I want to get to the bottom of it. But if you're so busy, making yourself better as a martial artist, you're definitely not caring about the news and you're paying attention to stuff like that. You're just trying to be better, and I think that's what martial arts is all about, is self-improvement and trying to get better. And if you listen to the old philosophers, they would tell you that they would always wrestle because it would bring them closer to God, like the Platos and the Aristotles and the Socrates and stuff like that. They were all wrestlers. And there was something about, wrestling and martial arts that they said would bring you into like a field of like, almost like being closer to the ether or something, because you're on a separate wavelength. That's what martial arts does for you. And I believe that the monks have it figured out. The monks are in their last life, and they know that the only thing you can do is pray, meditate, and train martial arts to get out of this realm with no regrets, right? And to be light as a feather, as they would say at the Egyptian Book of the Dead, right? To be light as a feather, no regrets to get to ascend. Right. And so I believe that it's kind of like that. You have to train, love, and have as little as regrets as possible. And maybe you'll ascend at the end of this. Otherwise, you're coming back, you're going to do it again. And you may be the 2-year-old that's playing Mozart on the piano and his parents can't figure it out because they're like, I've never put him on a piano. They're like, how can he be playing Mozart? I don't fucking know. I think there's something
Mozart
to
was
that.
Illuminati.
Well, I think there's something to that. That's my point, is that when people show skills at an early age that seem like they've come out of nowhere, and it makes no sense because they've never touched the piano before in their life, but they're like a savant, I believe that something's bleeding through from their last reincarnation. And, Sam had a couple people on Zero who I thought was pretty interesting. The one guy it was so funny, Thomas, because he was like, I started weeping because NASA landed a rover on Mars. And you could see Sam laugh, right? He laughed, right? And he didn't want to bust his bubble. But the guy spent so much time studying reincarnation because his dad died. It showed you that people are awake in some areas and they're really deep in some areas. But this guy just regurgitates whatever Billy Carson says. Like, if Billy Carson says it, then this guy says it, then this guy says 25 light years away. No one's ever measured that. No one could measure any of that shit. That is such a fucking lie. When people start busting out these huge numbers and speeds and like they've got it all figured out, but I can't get a cell phone. I can't get a cell phone call up north. I mean, it was such a joke, Thomas. Like, what a fucking joke. I don't believe anything they say because logic will win. If people just use their logical brain, they'll realize that there's no fucking way you're getting a picture as clear as fuck right before it hits an asteroid at so many 32,000 miles an hour. But I can't get a picture up north from my wife that sends it just a couple hundred miles away. I mean, come on, Thomas.
Well, this is a perfect segue to ask you what you believe in a bunch of different stuff.
Okay.
Let's do some PCP.
Hey, conspiracy buffs, I double dare you to take some PCP, the Paranormal Conspiracy Probe. On your marks, get set, and go!
Okay, in case you don't know the rules.
That was cool.
I just need a number from you on each of these, 1 to 10. So, for example, I'm going to say how much do you believe in Bigfoot ever existing on a scale from 1 to 10? Where are you at?
Is 10 like I strongly believe?
Correct, yeah.
10.
Okay, how about Mothman?
7.
How about Loch Ness Monster?
7.
How about the concept of flat Earth?
Ooh, I don't like that word, but the concept, yeah, I would say
Okay,
that
can we say firmament? Does it make you feel better if we say the firmament?
yeah, the firmament definitely exists. Like 100%, like in my opinion, I could the Go Fast rocket proves that without a doubt. I mean, they shot it straight up and it stopped on a dime. Like what did it hit? Why don't they ever show that?
So how
show
about
people that video?
So if we said firmament, where would you be on 1 to 10?
I'd say 10.
How about the concept of like a local sun or a local moon? You know what I mean when I say that?
Yeah, I mean it's inside the firmament.
Right. So yeah, so if we said a local sun inside the firmament 1 to 10.
I would say 8.
So does this apply to the moon too?
Probably. I mean, the moon is kind of a big mystery. Who the fuck knows what it is? You know, I can see through it. I can see stars, you know, through it sometimes, you know, when you look at it. They say, you know, it's a reflection of the sun, but it's literally up in the morning right next to the sun and it's still lit up as fuck. Like I don't know. The more I look at it, the more I wonder what the fuck it actually is. But I know one thing, Thomas, it's not what they present it as.
So
for sure, 100%.
So on 1 to 10,
7.
how possible is it that somebody could step foot on the moon? Like, isn't even a
0%.
physically possible thing?
0%.
0%.
Yeah,
How
0%.
How about dinosaurs?
Rebranded as dragons rebranded.
Okay, so when we say, is that a 0 for non-dragon dinosaurs?
I mean, the word dinosaurs is just a newer word like aliens. So it's like, yeah, it just doesn't exist. It's a more ancient thing and they're rebranding it.
Okay,
so 0.
So what about an actual fire-breathing flying dragon, like straight out of, you know, like a King Arthur's sort of novel, like a Sword in the Stone kind of book?
Yeah, I'd say like a 5 probably. I mean, you know that they're gonna fuck with it so much that they make it unbelievable, you know. So I'm not really sure, but I'd say a 5 for fire breathing Game of Thrones dragon.
Okay, how about 1 to 10 that Aleister Crowley summoned a real demon at some point?
I'm gonna say a 7 that he talked to something and that he believed that it was renamed something else and then he pushed that forward to the trust fund dorks and they thought it was cool.
How possible, again, on 1 to 10, how possible would it be for like a 7th grader to order a few books off Amazon? It's like How to Summon Demons for Dummies. Like, what are the chances that 7th grader could actually summon a demon at some point?
I think a lot of it is belief for that person for sure. But yeah, I'd say maybe 7 or 8. You know, I don't think it's too hard. You know, I mean, even Kobe Bryant made like dark magic child's books that were all about like summoning dark forces and stuff like that. You're like, what? I never heard of this. And then you look into these books and you're like, what the fuck is this shit? This is like some dark magic stuff. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's very possible that anybody could fuck around and find out.
Do you think, and you don't have to give me a score on this one, do you believe in the concept of like putting love into making food makes it taste better and it's like healthier? Or if you're like in a bad mood, like could you put like hate or anger into a meal and that could cause someone to stress?
Like water has memory type of thing.
I guess so. Yeah, that would be a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I would say your energy and your frequency that you put out affects everything.
So
So
so what about in a fight? Like, can you bear with me, this might sound silly, but like, could you throw a punch loaded with love versus a punch loaded with like hate and anger? And like, which of the like would a love punch be stronger than a hate punch?
that's so funny that you say that because I'm never angry when I fight. It's like a light switch. I have so much respect and love for the guy that I'm fighting because number one, most people would never make that walk. They would never make that walk. So I have loads of respect for someone who's willing to get in there and put their life on the line for the entertainment of people who, for sheeple, right? Who will never get in there and do it. And they'll just judge him whether he wins or loses. And like and then they're getting in there with me who trains like this is my life. Like I'm not here to do it for Instagram. Like I don't take videos every day of jumping rope. Like I just jump rope, I run, I hit the bag. And I always let people know that that's the real money in the bank. All your reps, all the reps that you're putting in your time bank, right? That's your real wealth. How many punches do you throw normally? Are you throwing one or two punches and you're a jab cross kind of guy? Or are you throwing like 5, 6, 7 punches and you're still not tired because that's your normal? Whatever your normal is going to be normal to you, right? If you only hit the bag 3 times a week, well, your normal is going to be 1, 2, 3 punches. If you hit it twice a day, well, your normal is going to be 7, 8, 9 punch combinations, and you'll get what you put in, right? So when I'm fighting someone, I have nothing but love for them, and when I'm punching them, that's a punch of love, even though it splits their face and it hurts them,
It's done
and
out of love.
I'm going to give a shout out to Greg Bono, who I fought in my first bare knuckle fight, and I broke his eye socket, I broke his jaw, right? And they took him away on a stretcher. And I tried to get a picture with him as they were taking him away. And his coach was like, "You've done enough." Like some like mad wife. You know what I mean? And I was like, but I have nothing but love for that guy. Me and that guy are friends, right? Now, the second guy I fought the bare knuckle fight where I lost the decision, he got really bent out of shape because everyone said that I won. And he had 45 stitches and I only had 3, and then he was getting all this hate on. So we didn't part as friends, right? And so I made a bunch of memes making fun of him, because that's one of the things I like to do to pass the time is create memes and create things. Like I don't want to scroll. I don't want to get into being distracted by the machine, right? If I'm going to be distracted, it has to be my intention. I have to look into 9/11 because I want to look into it. I have to look into Waco, or I want to listen to Paranoid American because I want to listen to it. I'm just not going to keep scrolling until I find it. I'll go to search Paranoid American, I'll go to your show, and then I'll listen to it. I'm not going to just keep scrolling
And
until
you'll
I find
and you'll subscribe and you'll hit the bell. You do all those things.
Yeah, exactly.
So if someone's squaring off, like in like an actual match, right? And they do like they won't dap you or they like spit at you or like you've seen all those square offs where they're doing it a little bit for show, like especially like the big title bouts. But clearly sometimes are they like they'll go and like kiss the other dude on like the forehead or like just something just meant out of disrespect. Is there like nothing that someone could do to you in like the pre-fight ritual that would make you fight out of anger? Is it just impossible for that to happen to you or what?
I literally think so because it would be like the elite trying to trick me into believing something, right? It'd be the same thing. Like I just like, bro, I just don't buy it. Like I just don't buy this. Yeah, I'm not buying it. Yeah, I'm just not buying it. He's like, no, you really don't want my family to be destroyed. No, you really, I just know this, it's just all to try to get me worked up. And, the main thing about fighting is you want to be relaxed so that you can think clearly and think logically because, there is something scientific to fighting. It's not just going out and swinging and wasting all your energy. You want to be very smart with your energy. You want to be very accurate with your punches. and you want to use your brain first. That's your best muscle, is your brain as a fighter, and if you're not smart, you're probably going to end up losing to a smarter fighter who may not work as hard as you because you don't use your brain, right? Because you're just a big knuckle dragger who just thinks that he's going to knock people out with a big punch that you bring from way back here that I can see coming from a mile away, but I duck under it and I hit you with 4 quick punches, and now you wake up and you're embarrassed, right? Because, reality isn't what you think it is. Every single male pretty much thinks he's 4,000% more effective in fighting than he is in reality, right? And I've seen this bouncing at the bar, like these huge guys in these big fights, and then you've got guys like they're punching like this, like they're like hammer fisting, like instead of punching straight down the pipe and knocking the guy's head back, like you see these big burly guys and they're just clubbing people because they don't really know what they're doing, right? So I've seen this a lot, and I would say the real 1% is martial artists, and even 1% of those are real fighters. You got a lot of pretender fighters that are all Instagram fighters that don't actually do the big 3 Trinity conditioning every day. They don't even do one of them.
So if someone wanted to go and watch you in action, like you just go on YouTube and search for John Lee Chalbeck, or
you can go on the BKFC. My 2 fights on the BKFC app are on there, so you can go on the BKFC app and you can look. I know that they didn't put one of them on YouTube for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, I've got a lot of highlights on YouTube. Most of my fights were at the Motor City Casino here in Detroit. So, most of all the footage is like cell phone footage and stuff like that. Not a lot of, I never ever paid someone to do professional video for me because I just wasn't that interested in, and, if someone captured a highlight, generically, like in reality from their phone, I'd get them to send it to me and I would add that to my highlight thing. But I've never been one to like, that's why it was nice fighting for the BKFC, because they had professional videographers and slow motions, and it was a lot of blood and lots of good highlights. So I was really glad to fight in those fights just to get the video footage. That's cool to have.
Are you active now in that? Like, do you have any like bouts lined up, like on the books?
I had a kickboxing fight that was supposed to be my first kickboxing fight. It was supposed to be in a couple weeks, but something went on with my opponent, and he didn't get approved or something like that. So now with this short notice, like I'm just gonna let this date skip over, and maybe sometime in the future I'll get another date going on. But I did talk to Dave Feldman today, the president of BKFC, which I've been trying to get back in their good graces for 2 years. And what happened was,
how'd you fall out of good graces?
Well, I broke my thumb off, and then, some shit happened with the insurance, and I got kind of pissy, and I started putting them on blast, because if you're the fastest growing combat sport in the world, I definitely shouldn't be having medical bills go to collections when I'm in the middle of trying to buy a fucking house. Right. So I was pretty upset about all that, and I put them on blast, and then, they put me on timeout for pretty much indefinitely until my contract ran out. And now I still try to text Dave every so often, like, let me come back and play. You know what I mean? But sometimes he'll respond, sometimes he won't. Today he responded. And, I was like, oh, cool. He's like, talk to me in 30 days, and which I will, but he probably won't put me on. But at least he gets back to me, because a lot of people he doesn't ever get back to. And it's not that I
start
really
a campaign. Should we put his like email at the bottom of the screen and be like, email this dude and
everyone message Dave Feldman and tell him that you guys want to see John Lee Chalbeck fight that 20-year-old champion, the 145 guy. I mean, I'm 42, and I'm telling you, I'll wipe the floor with that kid. I mean, nobody knows how to fight on the inside like I do, from what I've seen, and that's what that kid needs, is an inside fighter to beat his like wrestling ability. Because what he does is, the champion, a young kid from Montana, Kai Stewart, he grabs these guys from like behind, and he uses his wrestling to kind of get inside and make it rough. Well, that's where I want to be anyways. I like that style. So, and he's a wrestler, and I make fun of wrestlers all the time when we're boxing. I mean, it's not even going to be close. These guys didn't know how to fight him on the inside. So hopefully Dave will give me a comeback fight, and maybe he'll pop me back in there, and I'll get a chance to show something and change my life again with some fighting. But if not, I'm totally fine with staying retired and doing construction management. I got a really good job with a good company. I bought a house, I bought my wife a new car. I bought a new car, and, things are going a lot better for me. I'm not having to worry about money and stuff like that. Like I told everyone when I was on Sam's show, I prepared for the worst with this upcoming election. I bought some AR-15, some handguns, a bunch of food, survival food for my family. So, I'm prepped for the worst. If the supply chain goes down, I'm prepped. Like I was a man, I was a man of my word, and I did what I said everyone else should do. Right. So if things pop off, at least I'm self-contained. I've got 6,000 rounds of ammunition, body armor. I'm going to protect my family however I can. Right. However I can, that's what I'm going to do. Right. And I'll always do that for my family. And if nothing happens, great. But I think there's definitely something to all of these immigrants being let over, which are military age, 20, 30-year-olds coming over in troves, and they all hate America. And when you've got people at the border being like, why are you here? Who are you? And then this guy goes, you're going to know who the fuck I am real soon. Right. I think that's true. I think he's telling the truth there. When that guy pretty much like told that guy what the fuck was up, and he's like, you're going to find out who the fuck I am real soon. And he said it just like that. Very good English. Right. So
I gotta ask, with 6,000 rounds, I think I might have you beat, but this isn't a dick measuring contest on but what's the caliber? What is like the one go-to caliber if you had to pick one? Are we talking 223, 5.56?
Yeah, 5.56. I mean, let's just load everything 5.56. I've got 2 IWIs, so the way I look at it is, I'm using the enemy's weapon to destroy the enemy. You know what I mean? So
the IWI, the Galil Ace is nothing to laugh at, man. Nothing to snub your nose at, especially with it's got the little dust cover guide in there. It's next level.
So then I got those all trimmed out with the laser sights and stuff like that and all that good. So I mean,
a little vibrator and a tickler on there.
Yeah, I'm ready, man, and hopefully none of that stuff ever happens, and I just get to one thing I do want to bring up. I think it's really interesting, Thomas, is that the whole suppressor thing became very, very interesting the last, at the beginning of the year. It took usually people a year to 9 months to always get a suppressor, and at the gun store that I went to, after I heard that they were going through in a couple days and sometimes a week, I got my approval for the ATF in 48 hours.
Yeah, well, they basically transitioned from doing it all by paper and getting the thumbprints on paper and sending it in by mail, and now you can just e-file it, which it's crazy that wasn't something you could have done 20 years ago. But yeah, now it's all online and digital, so they can quickly match your IP address and your online fingerprint to everything. I'm sure that's part. And honestly, man, the suppression, not to go on a complete tangent, the suppression thing irritates the hell out of me because there's almost like a premise that, oh my God, if you get a suppressor, then you can just like shoot people in stealth mode and no one will even know.
Oh,
no one will even know a gun went off.
It's still pretty loud. It's still pretty loud.
Not only is it still pretty damn loud, but like the suppressor does two very valuable things. One, it prevents you from blowing your eardrums out so that you should still wear ear protection, but now all of a sudden, if there were like an emergency situation where you had to use a loud bang bang weapon, that like you don't have to go scrambling for earmuffs or earplugs just so that you can handle that. The other part too,
and we know a 5.56 is pretty much as loud as they come. You know what I mean?
Well, and the other thing too is that with the suppressor, you have way less recoil, so now you're more accurate. So like what planet would you want people that are legally using guns to not be able to protect their hearing and have a better shot? Like if anything, it seems like both of those things are like promoting safety, right? Like those are both gun safety things, and to make it so that it's unattainable to anyone outside of someone that's got a couple $100 to drop on just getting the tax stamp, and then the process of the tax stamp. I mean, I'll just rant on it forever and ever, but like it makes no sense.
I agree. I agree with you, but it's all part of, the control mechanisms that the masters of mankind have implemented with all of their, mechanism bodies that they've created to help, coordinate everything, which everyone's got the CIA, the ATF, the FBI have all got their job to do. And the ATF is to make sure that they make our Second Amendment rights, they try to fuck with them, as much as possible.
And this one originally, like all those tax stamps, the ones that apply to suppressors, the ones that apply if you wanted to go get like an automatic gun, like an actual Tommy gun, I think it would cost like 20 grand or plus.
Oh my God.
Just in order to actually be allowed to buy it. And a lot of that is kind of left over from hell, like almost 100 years ago now, but a lot of that is left over from putting the $200 tax stamp. That was like $2,000 tax stamp, you know what I mean? Like without inflation added to it. So it was really just, are you rich enough that you could just drop, the same amount of money that you could use to buy a car? Will you drop a car on just the privilege of having a suppressor, or just the privilege of having a fully automatic weapon of some kind? So it was always meant to push the poor people away, and they never really updated the tax stamp fee. So now it seems more approachable, but it's just a leftover artifact. But I think the part that annoys me the most is that if you do your pattern matching and you go back and you look at every single law and compromise that's been passed surrounding Second Amendment, it doesn't seem like in our lifetimes, and even my dad's lifetime, right, that it's ever erred towards more freedom. If anything, it's always giving more and more away. And I think that and to bring this into what I was talking about, the suppressors, a suppressor seems like such an obvious, logical thing to say, you know what, you don't need tax stamp for this anymore. Now anyone can get suppressors, and you don't have to register them, and you don't have to go through a special. I realize that I'm just like, in a fantasy land, thinking that would ever happen, but that would be, Second Amendment rights are constantly being compromised with nothing given in return. It's like there'll be a big shooting, and for example, Trump will be like, all right, fine, we'll just ban bump stocks, we'll worry about the laws later, but that's gone now. And it's just a way to say, like, look, I did something, stop bugging me about this. But had never in my lifetime have like gun right laws gotten more lenient or more like pro gun. It's always been the other direction. And I don't think there's ever been a president that was even offered to me that would have even been on that stance. Like it almost seems like political suicide to say, I'm gonna remove all the regulations around suppressors. People would lose their minds over that. Anyway,
yeah,
going on.
It's such a sensitive topic, and it always, for me, it's very, very obscure to why on earth would the elite let people have guns to begin with, right? And I started thinking about it, and it could be like a false sense of security, because when they really want to drop the fucking hammer, I mean, they're just burning Hawaii to the ground. You know what I mean? They're just burning Paradise, California to the ground.
I mean, maybe
they're melting buildings.
Because in the insurgents in the Middle East, like this is basically dudes with rusty Kalashnikovs that are hiding inside caves. And I'm oversimplifying that, but like all the fighter pilots and all the drones and all the everything in the world can't necessarily invalidate the fact that people know the terrain better, and they know like they have their own strategies, and they've got more resolve than just some random trust fund kid in a fighter jet pilot. Because let's be honest, usually if you become a pilot in the Air Force or in a lot of the services, that's kind of like a blue blood reserve thing. Like anyone can technically get in there, but the if you've got nepotism in action, usually if you can fit in the cockpit, you get to be in the cockpit.
Yeah. Well, bear with me, Thomas. I think that these resets, these mud floods were started that melted these buildings, that liquefied this crust. This is the same weapon that we see in Paradise. It's the same weapon that we see in Hawaii. It's this type of, who knows what it is. I'm not going to say space laser, but there's obviously something going on with it. Did you ever see the movie Seriana with George Clooney?
It's been a while.
Okay, it's like 2003, right? But they kill these terrorists with a satellite, right? It's like a space laser, and they just blow the car right out of the desert, right? And to me, that's them letting you know that this shit has existed forever, and wherever it's stationed, who knows? Whatever it is, I don't know. Like, but I think that they let us have some of these weapons and some of these things because when they really need to do their reset and they've got their bunkers all made or whatever, they have this weapon, these barons, these robber barons, these elite trust fund dorks, these resetters, these masters of mankind. They have something that we don't even know exists. And, it's almost like, oh God, back in the day, there was this talk of like this Tesla laser type of thing, like
death ray.
Right. And it would like, I think it's something like that, whether they're giving us the whole story or not, I think it's something similar to some sort of weapon that we can't even really comprehend, that nobody knows about. It's very esoteric in nature, and it can do a lot of damage. And that's why they let these ants have these little poo-poos, these pow-pows, because really in the end, they'll just burn every single house to the ground and leave all the trees, and then say it was a fire, a wildfire. And then you'll be like, well, that's impossible because the wildfire would have burned all the trees, not just the houses. And you're like, no, you're retarded. You're thinking too much. You're trying to use too much overthinking. Just believe whatever the news tells you. But meanwhile, if you use logic, you'll realize that these guys they've got something up their sleeve. And I think that's what they'd use for their resets. And so when you talk to the melted building guy and he's talking about all these bubbling, I think that it's not natural. I don't think it's a natural reset that happens. I don't think it's an asteroid. I don't think it's anything cosmic. I think it's these ancient trust fund dorks, some sort of weapon.
So I want to wrap this up a little bit and just ask if somebody encounters a trust fund dork out in the wild, like, and they square up, what are your tips? What are your tips for knocking a trust fund dork out?
Just open hand smack them right away and let them know that you're not there fucking around. Like open hand smack, and then just be like, what the fuck are you going to do? And he'll no one's ever done that to him. Trust me. He has his bodyguards around. But if you catch him, Bill Gates with no bodyguards and just be like the pie. Remember when that guy hit him with the pie and he was all bent out of shape?
That's the reason why he's trying to kill us all with mosquitoes now.
Yeah, he was all bent out of shape about that. But you know what? Just an open hand smack goes very far, because my lawyer told me also that never punch someone closed fist. They'll try to get aggravated assault on you. They'll know that, they'll look up your history. They'll know you're a fighter. And that goes for anyone that does training. You could be doing title boxing, and if the prosecutor sees footage of you on Facebook, they could try to go for aggravated. There's no my hands are illegal or anything like that, right? But if you have training under your belt, then it's up to the prosecutor to use that against you in any type of assault case, right? So just be wary. But if you open hand smack them and you have a good lawyer, the lawyer will at least be able to present that you were trying to protect them while protecting yourself. So I think that's the way I usually go about things now. If I have to hit someone, I palm them, I open hand smack them, which still could knock them out. You've seen by the slap show that guys are getting knocked out all the time. It's pretty much like that. Just smack them. You won't cut their face. And but if they hit the ground, hit the back of their head, you could still go to jail for that. So you got to be careful.
I like that. So if you're gonna, it's not assault. If you find one of these trust fund kids, you open hand smack them. Because you don't have enough respect for them to give them the full closed fist. And then the other part is that you want to get someone to film it so that if ever come up in court, your lawyer could be like, Your Honor, let's point out here that
I at least tried to protect them. Yeah,
pitch clapped here, right?
But look what happened when he used the closed fist on this other guy, and then we'll show a picture of the other guy's face, and then he'll be like, "My client was well aware of the consequences of a closed fist strike, and this is why he open hand smacked it to defend himself." And I'll just say that Bill Gates came at me with an overhand right, and I'll have to put him away.
He came at me with a bunch of mosquitoes, so I had to slap him down. Tell people where they can find you.
You can find me at the It's Not What You Think podcast on YouTube and Spotify, and I think I have it on Apple, but I haven't really uploaded there too much. I'm always so many different places. My schedule's crazy. I got a 6 a.m. boxing class. Then I go to work at 7:30, and I'm at work till 5. I have a 6 p.m. boxing class, martial arts class. And then by the time I get home, it's like 8 p.m. So I'm from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day, always busy. So I'm not just sitting around with my head, in the 77 book. That's why this book is taking so long, because I barely have time to write it.
Yeah, books are a bitch, man. They're a bitch to write.
It's tough. That's why I want to do a comic.
Get it all in there, and you don't want to leave it out, and you want it to be perfect, so it just never ends.
My dream is to do a comic book with you. So, eventually, hopefully I can put enough money away to, really turn my book into also a comic book.
We can do it, man. I mean, I've put out, I think we're going on 10 this year, which I said I was going to do in January, and I didn't even know if I believed myself, but we're already there. Like by the end of next month, we'll have 10 new books released. So it's definitely possible. And we can definitely knock out a 77-page book. If it were a comic book. For a real book, then like my perfectionism takes over way too much, and then who knows if it'll ever get done.
Yeah, I'm at 195 pages right now, and I told myself at 200 I'm going to start editing, and that's it. Like I just can't do anymore. Like
edit it down to 177.
Well, I'm sure I'll be adding as I'm editing, right? I'll be adding stuff, right, as I'm going through it.
Well, thanks for coming on, man. Well, you're definitely going to come back around. I feel like you'll be in this space for a hot minute. So I look forward to talking to you again, man.
Thank you so much, Thomas. I really appreciate it, man. Stay the course. I'm a big fan.
Ready for a cosmic conspiracy about Stanley Kubrick, moon landings, and the CIA? Go visit nasacomic.com.
nasacomic.com, CIA's biggest con. Stanley Kubrick put us on, that's why we're singing this song. I'm nasacomic.com. Go visit nasacomic.com. Go visit nasacomic.com. Yeah, go visit nasacomic.com. Oh, nasacomic.com, CIA's biggest con. Stanley Kubrick put us on, that's why we're singing this song. I'm nasacomic.com. Go visit nasacomic.com. Go visit nasacomic.com. Yeah, go visit nasacomic.com.
Never a Straight Answer is a 40-page comic about Stanley Kubrick directing the Apollo space missions.
Yeah, go visit nasacomic.com.
This is the perfect read for comic, Kubrick, or conspiracy fans of all ages. For more details, visit nasacomic.com.
Spread the word with propaganda packs, all for just $40 shipped at paranoidamerican.com.
Paranoid propaganda packs. We got facts on these sticker slaps. So grab yourself a stack and go attack with these paranoid propaganda packs.
These these huge all-weather slaps will last in public for years to come. Remind citizens that birds are not real, self-immolation is an option, and might make you magnetic. Do your part and get a propaganda pack today from ParanoidAmerican.com.
Yeah, paranoid propaganda packs. We got facts on these sticker slaps. So grab yourself a stack and go attack with these paranoid propaganda packs.
What are you waiting for? Go to ParanoidAmerican.com right now and get a paranoid propaganda pack.
All American stickers, cryptids, cults, and killers. We got all your favorite conspiracies, all of that and more on our sticker sheets. Paranoid American stickers, they'll make you smile and snicker. False flags and secret societies, all of these and more on our sticker sheets.
Explore the unique with Paranoid American sticker sheets. Unearth tales of cryptids, cults, and mysteries through each sticker. These won't last long. Get yours now at ParanoidAmerican.com.
All American stickers, cryptids, cults, and killers. We got all your favorite conspiracies, all of that and more on our sticker sheets. Paranoid American stickers, they'll make you smile and snicker. False flags and secret societies, all of these and more on our sticker sheets.
What the heck are you waiting for? Discover the extraordinary with Paranoid American sticker sheets. From cryptids in the night to cults out of sight, each sticker is a unique find. Get yours now at ParanoidAmerican.com.
Paranoid. Yo. I scribble my life away, driven to write the page. Will it enlighten your brain? Give you the flight, my plane, paper the highs ablaze. Somewhat of an amazing feel when it's real to real. You will engage it. Your favorite, of course, the Lord of an arrangement. I gave you the proper results to hit the pavement. If they get emotional, hate, maybe your language, a game, how they playing it well without Lakers. Evade them, whatever the cost, they are the shapeshift. Snakes get decapitated, met is the apex. Execution of flame you out, nuclear bomb distributed at war, rather gruesome for eyes to see. Max them out, then I light my trees. Blow it off in the face, you're despising me for what though? Calculated and rather cutthroat. Paranoid American must be all the blunt smoke for real. Lord, give me a day away, vacate. They wait around to hate whatever they say. Matters not in the least bit. We get heavy rotate when the beat hits, so thank us, you're welcome. Fuck the niggas for real, you're welcome. They ain't never had a deal, you're welcome. Man, they lacking appeal, you're welcome. Yet they doing it still, you're welcome.